This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com with a daily wrestling news update for you. The sad news of the day is Dominic Denucci, who is a legendary wrestler who trained both Shane Douglas and Mick Foley, is in the hospital going through a cardiac catheterization right now, which basically is a procedure used to diagnose and treat cardiovascular conditions. So I guess Denucci must have a serious heart issue. If you look in the description of this video, I did an interview with Dominic Denucci back. It was one of the first interviews I ever did, so the quality's low. It was at a Hall of Fame ceremony, and I did it out in the hallway. But if you don't know who he is, he's a legendary wrestler, and you can hear all about him in that interview. So hopefully they find out what's wrong with him. He's 88 years old now. Wish him a speedy recovery. Very nice guy. Randy Orton appears to be doing a Twitter angle with Tommaso Ciampa. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm not very familiar with NXT. He's basically gone on Twitter and he's making fun of like the leg slapping. It's very popular in wrestling these days, like with AEW. If you kick someone, boom. Same with NXT. Shawn Michaels, when he did it, not many people knew about it when he did his super kick, but now everybody knows about it. Everybody does it. It's overdone and it's fake. So Randy Orton made a tweet about all the thigh slapping on NXT. And apparently Dave Meltzer says in WWE they look down on wrestlers making insulting social media posts about fellow members of the company. So it's very likely this has to do with a program with this Tommaso and Randy Orton. Of course, Tommaso lost to Karrion Kross on NXT TakeOver last night, who was also known as Killer Kross. And I believe I had one of his last interviews before he went over to NXT. You could check that out if you search Killer Kross, thehannibaltv.com. I actually do like him, and he's got to be one of the better guys WWE has under contract right now. And as far as these angles that they're trying to, quote unquote, work the marks with Orton doing this social media angle, last week on Raw, we had that whole Nia Jax injury thing that more than likely was just a way to work the marks into being more invested into that feud. So WWE is finding other ways to make people believe in the current landscape. So good job for you guys trying to do that. Although I don't know why you'd necessarily want to point out all the leg slapping that is going on in companies like NXT, because that turns off regular fans. But I guess at this point, there's very few regular fans that are still watching. It's mostly the hardcore of the hardcore that, of course, are also watching on Twitter. That's why they're doing these social media angles. And here's something funny, okay? Triple H released a statement that Johnny Gargano suffered tightness in his lower back and hips after his match at NXT TakeOver last night. So wrestlers went from being the toughest of the tough to now, when they're a little tight in their lower back and hips, it's now reported by Triple H as if it's like an injury. Meanwhile, if you watch Felicia Spencer take that beating from Amanda Nunes last Saturday night, her face is all inflamed. There's cuts all over herself. Like, they're making wrestlers look like such wimps. Oh, his hips are tight. Okay, I've been running almost every day since this lockdown started. My hips are tight. My lower back is also tight. But have you seen me complaining about it? No. And I'm not even saying that you have to be tough. How many of you people that work out there have tight hips right now? Like, give me a break. Are you actually posting this, Triple H? I mean, these NXT ratings are brutal. I think AEW's beat them now 29 times to 5 times in viewership with one draw. Why is someone not firing Triple H? Oh, that's right. He's married to Vince's daughter. Biggest Richard Cranium tipped me $2. Thank you for the tip. As far as shoot interviews for this week, I'm working on Scott Norton. I'm working on possibly New Jack, having some communication with him. I am interviewing. Many of you might not know her, but if you were a fan of Glow, there was actually a wrestler named Sunny on Glow prior to Sunny being in WWE. So I'm interviewing this Glow girl, Sunny. I put it in my YouTube stories. If you have a question, suggestion for her, put it in the comments. And as I said, I got a lot of stuff cooking. I'm talking to Luke Gallows about doing some stuff in the near future. So hopefully that works out. I'll get into some of your questions. Oh, by the way, Luke Gallows told me he found this story that I put on YouTube regarding Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins funny. Colonel Coyle says hello or ho, whatever that's supposed to mean. Hi, it was a typo. Kentucky Fried says Big H. NYO Dog says hello there, sir. Hello to you, good sir. Anthony Calavicio, best channel on YouTube. Thank you. Had a few other people tell me that today. By the way, I posted a clip of me talking about Vince Russo last night. I recorded that because my next compilation video I'm putting out, which I'm going to probably have uploaded before the end of the night tonight, is about Vince Russo. And honestly, I don't think one of the interview clips that I've done of someone else talking about Vince Russo has anything positive to say about him for various reasons. So I thought I would at least do a more positive clip about him so I don't seem like this is anything personal. This compilation video is nothing personal against Vince. He's a nice person as a person. It's just my job to interview people and put the interviews out there. Need to make money. I know a lot of places are opening up. The lockdown is still pretty bad here where I'm in Canada. There's no end in sight here in Ontario for the gyms to open, which is annoying. As I said, I am so sick and tired of running, but my fight training is going good. I'll answer a couple more of your questions. Mark Dark Shadow, did Dominic wrestle into his 60s or at least have a few matches in his 60s? I believe so. It wasn't too long ago. I think it may have been within the last 10 years. I think he had a match in Toronto not too long ago. It was a show called Titans in Toronto or something, and it wasn't too long ago, so he was wrestling. Do I know Edge? I've only met him when I was doing WWE extra jobs. He was nice as a person, but unfortunately for WWE, he has not helped their ratings at all on any of the episodes they've brought him back, which has to be a disappointment for him because I know they're paying him big money. I know he's wrestling Randy Orton. They've already recorded this match, by the way. They're doing an angle for a match this weekend that they're calling the greatest match ever between Edge and Orton, that supposedly it's already been recorded. Will Markley says Triple H, after the TakeOver event, admitted that Charlotte lost for a bigger storyline. It makes me think Orton and this other guy are doing a work too. Yeah. It's strange the way they're doing it. I do agree that they do have to work a little bit harder and kayfabe in more unusual ways now, since only the hardcore of the hardcore are still watching WWE, and those people are on social media. So why not try to trick them into thinking that wrestlers actually have heat with angles like this and the Nia Jax angle. Carlos Gambino tipped me £5 from the Gambino crime family. Says, hey, bro, love your work. Great job watching from Ireland. Keep up the good work. Okay, maybe it's not the same Gambino family if you're from Ireland. Thank you. I did a Irish podcast lately for Husney or something like that. He's also on Conan's podcast. The Skype version of that podcast is on my second YouTube channel, Devin Nicholson. If you look that up, I do post some custom content on that channel, such as that Irish podcast. So thank you for your support. Connor says they should bring back Gangrel and do an angle with him and Edge. That would be interesting. And Gangrel is still in good shape. I actually beat Gangrel back in 2017. You can look that match up here on the Hannibal TV. Hannibal versus Gangrel. It was actually, he's a tough guy. That was a hard-hitting match between Gangrel and I. And there's also a full shoot interview with Gangrel on this channel too. One of my most popular shoot interviews. Al is asking, could I see McGregor doing an angle with Mike Tyson in AEW? I don't think AEW would put up the money for McGregor. I'd be surprised if they would. He's a lot hotter than Mike Tyson. He's more current than Mike Tyson. I think he would request a lot more money than Mike Tyson. And I don't think with the 0.2 ratings they're getting in AEW, they are a rich company, but do you really want to throw around millions of dollars for 0.2 ratings? I don't know. I don't think that'll happen. I actually think McGregor's more likely to box again, if anything. But according to most reports, this is just more of a contractual dispute than anything with McGregor and Dana White. Alexander Ramos says McGregor is a bigger asshole than Mike Tyson. Well, McGregor isn't a tier 2 sex offender and convicted rapist, but he did punch an old man in the back of the head. Although he did settle that case, I'm sure that is the most money that man that he punched probably ever made in his life. Ivan mentions that New Japan is going to make an announcement tonight after Raw. If it's that big, I'll do another update on it, but most believe it's just going to be that they're going to get back to running shows without a crowd and possibly mention that they're going to do a bigger show with somewhat of a crowd sometime in the near future. Derek Jones says there was a woman in Glow who had a Russian gimmick named Coyle Nenichka who played a great heel. Could I ask Sonny whatever happened to her? Yes, and if you go to my YouTube story and write the comment in there, I won't forget it. I might forget it if it's just by memory here, but I always review those YouTube story comments prior to my interviews now that I've discovered these YouTube stories. Springer 90 says he wants to see Connor versus Riddle. Anything's possible. If a wrestling company is going to throw money at Connor, I think it would be WWE. They're making millions and millions of dollars in TV revenue. They could use a star like Connor. It is possible they would do that. Rob says, what about a Tyson versus Mr. T angle? I will be perfectly honest with you. I think that would have a lot of interest. I would rather see Mike Tyson do a fake boxing match with Mr. T than Mike Tyson do a fake boxing match with Chris Jericho. And by the way, Mr. T is on my interview list. I was a fan of his. Rocky 3, I think he was my favorite Rocky villain. I did like Tommy Morrison in Rocky 5, but the Rocky 5 storyline I didn't like the best. However, for those of you that don't know, Terry Funk choreographed the fight scenes in Rocky 5. But it's interesting. Since I started training a little bit in boxing, I never really liked Rocky V as for the storyline purposes. But the advice, a lot of the advice that Rocky gives to Tommy Morrison in Rocky V is actual, real, useful boxing advice. Jake Pliskin says Connor quit UFC like I quit drinking. Living for God says he hasn't seen Mr. T in years. Digital says I pity the fool. Connor Hughes, would I ever do strongman interviews? Yes, I would. I've done arm wrestler interviews. And actually, the arm wrestling interviews that I've done, some of them have bigger hits than my wrestling interviews. Jay Smith liked Rocky 2. I didn't really like Rocky 2, to be honest with you. The best thing I liked about Rocky 2 is Rocky's car, which I would still want that car. I believe it was a Pontiac Firebird. Did I like Beetlejuice? Someone's asking me. Somewhat. I was pretty young. I remember the cartoon more than the movie. Ames says, do I remember Glow Wrestling? What's my take on it? People wanted to ban it because they thought it was portraying women in a bad light. Tommy Morrison died in real life. Yes, it's unfortunate about Tommy Morrison. He's probably my favorite boxer, actually. I really liked him. Did I like Glow Wrestling? Yes, as a kid. I haven't really gone back and watched too much Glow, other than the documentaries. As far as the Netflix show, I watched the first season, watched a couple episodes of the second season, then they lost me. But I do like Glow overall. As a kid, I liked it. Alexander Ramos says, would I do an interview with Arthur Bronson? I don't even know who that is. What happened to him and Eddie Hall? You'll have to enlighten me on who that is. Cromwell 2007 says he doesn't remember anything bad about Glow. Matthew 27. Opinion of the blue blazer gimmick. It's underrated. I didn't think it was that bad. KEH says everyone knows a boxer can't beat up a street fighter ever. Well, if the street fighter it depends if it's in a street fight or in boxing. I would consider myself more of a street fighter than a boxer, but if I was to box a seasoned boxer in a 15-round boxing match, I think the seasoned boxer would have the advantage. Matt H says Warrior with Tom Hardy is one of the best under radar movies. I have never seen it. I'll have to look that one up. I'll highlight it right now, actually. A couple more questions. Ron R says Ivory from WWE was in Glow. Yes, she was. Derek Jones says Tommy Morrison has two sons who are pro boxers. Good to know. I'm actually going to look them up. A lot of people have been asking me to do more boxing interviews, so I might look to doing that in the future. Ames says, my favorite memory of Glow was when the big bad mama beat up Al Bundy. I don't remember that, but I was a big Married with Children fan. And I do know that Hollywood from Glow, definitely, I've interviewed her a few times, was on Married with Children. And Hollywood is my favorite Glow cast member. There's a few interviews of me. If you search the Hannibal TV Glow, you can see the interviews I've done with Glow girls. They're great girls. I haven't met any Glow girl that isn't a true sweetheart. I really like them all. Cornwall says Harthor 1,104 deadlift. Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Is that the Mountain? I do know him. Kazim says Undertaker for Life. Does anyone know why there hasn't been? I thought the Undertaker Last Ride series was supposed to be a 6-part series. Chapter 3 aired 2 weeks ago, and I don't think there's been anything since. Patrick J says Hollywood is still hot. I agree. And that's saying a lot coming from me. I generally don't like older women. Last question from Ronald. Looking forward to that interview. That's good. One quick one, Ronan Hughes. The Page family from Fighting With My Family, are they still promoting in the UK? As far as I know, yes. They did a big stadium event last year that Brody Steele was on. He is a maritime wrestler from Canada. He recently did a long shoot interview that he let me post here on the Hannibal TV. So, and this is a question I've already addressed. My opinion on Adam Cole going to AEW when his contract is up. He's not a ratings mover. NXT's losing in ratings. The mainstream fans don't give a damn about Adam Cole. He's a small, boring wrestler. He'll go whoever pays him the most. If they move him up to the main roster, I think he's NXT champion right now, or he may have lost it last night. I don't know. Didn't see the full show or read the full results. I only paid attention to Karrion Kross because I know him. But I think if Adam Cole doesn't get moved up to the main roster, he'll likely go to AEW. Will he make any difference in AEW? No. Will he make any difference in NXT? No. There's too many leg-slapping mini wrestler gymnasts in NXT and AEW. So have a great night, everyone.